Once upon a time there was a miller who was poor, and he had a daughter. She was neither beautiful nor plain, clever nor stupid, kind nor cruel, but she made her way reasonably happily through life and didn't ask too much of it. But the miller watched the years go by and waited for the suitor that would relieve him and his business of the continuing expense of a healthy and hungry young woman. Now one day he happened to talk to the king, and seeing his chance, yet lacking the wit to make a case for her on her own merits, said, "I have a daughter who knows the art of transforming straw into gold." Immediately he said it, he was sure he'd made a mistake and would be sure to be found out, and it would likely cost him a lot more than his daughter's dinners. But it was too late. So the king, who loved gold above looks, brains and saintly behaviour, had the miller's daughter summoned to him right away and ordered her to spin all the straw in a room into gold in one night, and if she couldn't do this, she would die. Then she was locked in the room where she sat and wept. For the life of her, she didn't have the first clue how to spin straw into gold. Just as she reached her wit's end, a small chap entered the room. Quickly assessed the situation, recognised an opportunity, and made an offer.
"What will you give me if I spin all this into gold?"
She didn't have much but what she was wearing, so she took off her necklace and gave it to the little man, and he did exactly what he promised, and no fuss. The next morning, the king found the entire room filled with gold. But because of this, his heart grew even greedier, and he locked the miller's daughter in another room full of straw that was even larger than the first, and she was to spin it all into gold. Then the little man came again, and she gave him a ring from one of her fingers, and everything was once more spun into gold. However, on the third night, the king had her locked again in another room that was larger than the other two and filled with straw. "If you succeed, I'll have you for my wife," he said. Then the little man came again, and this time the offer was altogether different and darker.
"I'll do everything for you one more time, but you must promise me your firstborn child that you have with the king."
Now that's an easy thing to say, but hard to imagine. And she was desperate, and she didn't think for a minute that her diminutive comrade would want to collect. And she promised him what he wanted, and when the king saw once again how the straw had been spun into gold, he took the miller's middling daughter for his wife. Soon thereafter, the queen gave birth, and to her horror, the little man appeared before her and demanded the promised child. Now the promise so easily made seemed impossible to keep. The queen frantically offered the little man all that she could and all the treasures of the kingdom if he would let her keep her child, but it was all in vain. Then the little man said,
"In 3 days, I'll come again to fetch the child, and I'll give you 3 chances to guess my name. If you guess true, you shall keep your child. Otherwise, you must hand me the child, as you promised."
Then, as quickly as he'd appeared, he was gone, and in a state of high excitement, as he felt he'd been more than reasonable, but had left the odds heavily in his own favour. During the first and second nights, the Queen fell into a fever of anguish as she tried to match the names in her head to the character of the little chap. Time passed, and the more she went over the problem, and it was again and again, the more depressed and forlorn she became. On the third day, however, the King returned home from hunting and told her, "I've got to tell you this, and I'll need an explanation. I was out hunting the day before yesterday, and I went deep into the dark forest, and I came upon a small cottage, and in front there was a ridiculous little fella, hopping around as if he only had one leg and screeching. What was it exactly? Today I'll brew, tomorrow I'll bake, soon I'll have the Queen's namesake. How hard it is to play my game, for Rumpelstiltskin is my name." When the Queen heard this, she rejoiced and told the King everything, and he was only mildly vexed because he still had his gold. When the man who was actually responsible for the King's wealth came, he asked the Queen,
"What's my name then, Your Highness?"
She responded first by guessing. "Is your name Keith?
"No."
Is your name Philip?
"No."
Is your name Rumpelstiltskin?" Rumpelstiltskin screamed. Off he ran, full of despair, before the King could catch him, and home he went, and lived all alone the rest of his